Here at home, election season gets in high gear a week from today when New York holds its primaries for state races. And for a preview, Andrew, once again, give us an idea what's going on, because I know it's a little inside baseball here, but it kind of gives you an idea where the electorate's head's at.
Okay, well, Rich, obviously the big ticket race next Tuesday is the Democratic primary for governor. Fordham law professor Zephyr Teachout is mounting a challenge to incumbent Governor Andrew Cuomo. Hi, this is on the ballot next Tuesday. Comedian and activist Randy Credico, who I do not mention that often, is also on the ballot. Now, the Teachout candidacy has also produced an interesting matchup in the race for lieutenant governor. Current Lieutenant Governor Bob Duffy is retiring. Former Congresswoman Kathy Hochul is running with Cuomo, opposed by Columbia law professor Tim Wu, who's on the Teachout ticket. But the race for lieutenant governor isn't tied to the gubernatorial race. So if Wu beats Hochul, he becomes the Democratic nominee, even if Cuomo defeats Teachout. It's an electoral oddity that has happened in New York in past elections, though Hochul would remain on other party ballot lines, and there are reports that the Cuomo team is possibly planning to dump Hochul in that eventuality. As for the State House in Albany, think of that as a mini Capitol Hill. Democrats are a lock to retain the state assembly, but the state Senate is up for grabs. Democrats and Republicans are almost evenly split right now with 2 vacancies, and that 4-member independent Democratic conference now sharing power with the GOP, but they have pledged to come back to the Democratic side next year, which makes Tuesday's primary in District 34 so interesting. Incumbent Jeff Klein, who represents the Bronx and Westchester, is the leader of the IDC. He's being challenged by former State Attorney General Oliver Capel. There are 2 other state Senate primaries in the lower Hudson Valley. One is on the Democratic side. The other is a GOP fight in Dutchess, Putnam, and Westchester counties to replace outgoing Senator Greg Ball. But that's really where the question mark is. What happens primarily in the lieutenant governor's line, and then what happens in the primaries that sets the stage for the elections on the state Senate?
Cuomo wouldn't cut Hochul loose, would he?
I don't know. They've been talking about it. They've said absolutely not. But, you know, shades of a disaster for a Cuomo if you end up with an Al Del Bello situation in which he is tied to Wu, which we know his father was tied to Al Del Bello and certainly didn't want to be. So, you know, to say the least.
Just to complicate things even more, the votes that would come for Cuomo Hochul on the working families line or on the Democrat or the independent line would not count towards Cuomo's total from the Democratic line. So if you're a Democratic voter and you go to the polls and you vote Cuomo Wu, that's a different turnout or a different Teachout. It's a different result than if you're voting for Cuomo Hochul on one of these other lines.
He likes to say Wu and Teachout.
If Wu beats Hochul, Cuomo has to get rid of Hochul.
Wu's an interesting guy.
Has to get rid of Hochul. He made his big thing on, let me see if I got this right, net neutrality is his big issue, or at least was before this race.
And what is the New York Times doing? They stay out of the primary for governor, and they endorse Wu for lieutenant governor?
Frankly, that's the only reason why we're talking about Mr. Wu. He would be in the same boat as Teachout, and that is history as of next Tuesday night. But we may be looking at a scenario with this guy, because remember, if you want to punish Governor Cuomo for corruption in the commission and so on, what's a good way to do it? Okay, we're still going to vote for him at the top of the ticket, but we're going to send you a message, Governor. Hochul is out. We're putting in this new guy. And remember, Richard, it's not like we can say, oh, well, it's only lieutenant governor. Lieutenant governor does absolutely nothing. That's what David Paterson was doing when Spitzer had to step down and he became governor. And we know how well that went over.
But don't you guys think that the floodgates on criticism for Andrew Cuomo have opened up? I mean, it's almost, and I was comparing this to a Chris Christie situation after Bridgegate, where once there's a chink in the armor, it seems like all of the knives come out. It seems like everybody's been holding their fire on Cuomo because he's powerful, because he strong arms a lot of people, but the bully seems to have a weakness at this point. And I mean, this is a lot of dissent against Andrew Cuomo.
I still think a lot more people are afraid to cross Cuomo than they are Christie right now. There's a downside because he's going to win in November, and he doesn't forget. Christie's always had his eyes on something else. Cuomo, you don't know where he's going to go or can go. You know this better than anybody. People are afraid of payback from this governor, right?
No doubt about it. I contend it's the sole reason why we have budgets on time in New York State. Because Andrew Cuomo came in office and he said, listen, it's going to be my way or the highway?
But can he do
My
that?
way or indictment? Which one do you want?
Can he still do that if he's weakened at all?
He's not weakened.
In the primary process, or if he's weakened at all come November?
He's not weakened. Knowing Mr. Cuomo very well, he feels more empowered than ever. He's thinking that it's payback time. He can't wait. Knowing him very well, he can't wait to get reelected, and then it's payback time.
Because also, Andrew, there's I think, such a vacuum. I mean, it used to be you had 3 guys in the room, right? I mean, in a lot of ways, Shelley's still a power, right? But it's not what he was. And there's no more Bruno. I mean, you name a Republican with any juice right now in New York State, right? Look what happened. I mean, look what he did to poor Skelos, right? I mean, so, whatever you think of him, Cuomo knows how to get everything lined up, and they still fear him.
Yeah, but it's like Cuomo versus the New York Times. The story this weekend about how he's not touchy-feely. I mean, the Times has gone after him in a way.
And
a love letter to Wu.
The bio with the dad in Saigon.
And a guy who has no political background. I mean, a brilliant guy, obviously, but has no political background whatsoever. So, the Times has stepped in to fill that void that was left by Bruno and others.
But how do you endorse him and say Teachout doesn't have the qualifications?
That's exactly
well,
right.
What qualifications does Mr. Wu have? I mean, I'm sure he's a great guy,
They said in the piece too that look, it's lieutenant governor. I mean, it was a little bit of
it doesn't matter.
Right, pretty much. By the way, if I'm buying stock in anybody in Albany right now, it's probably Jeff Klein, because he's going to win his primary, he's going to win re-election, and I don't get the feeling that the state Senate's going to be more than 3-4 seats away from tipping the balance of power.
I think it's more Democrat this year, don't you?
I don't know.
I don't know. I think so.
He's going where he's got the most.
But then what's
power.
he going to be when it's over? Is he going to be a liberal? Is he going to be a moderate? Is he going to be some fakakta, whatever they call the other thing, right? What do they call that? With a gang of 6 or the?
I don't want to be a skeptic. Show me the money. That's what he's going to be.
That would be a skeptic, actually. All right, we come back. We leave politics altogether. And I'm going to read the tease as it's written. There's something strange going on in the neighborhood again. The Ghostbusters back after 30 years. We'll be right back. Believe it or not, 30 years. Dan Aykroyd, a lot skinnier back then. All right, we'll be right back with more on that after this.